a lot of times, the modern style of wrestling requires a lot of speed. I mean, it is nonstop, and that is the world we live in. But in the main event, they made every little thing count, including Paul Heyman turning once on we felt like he was turning on Roman Reigns to side with CM Punk. And then we find out, well, that's not the total plan. He left with Seth Rollins. What a finish. I'm hoping that we get some sort of answers tonight on Monday Night Raw. We didn't hear from anybody at the post-WrestleMania press conference. What do you think of this main event? It was a big deal for CM Punk. They let him come out last. They had the appropriate video package. It felt like a major happening. It felt like a major event. And there wasn't even a world title on the line. What do you think of this main event from night one?
Yeah, it reminds me so much of, guys talking about Johnny Valentine or Lou Thez, how Lou Thez would walk through the building, through the box office so that fans would see him. He'd walk through in a really nice suit. People go, oh, my God, that's the world champion. You'd feel that. Johnny Valentine was the same way. There are certain people that would walk in and you just felt like, oh, geez, that's the freaking world champion. They walked out in this match like they were the main event of WrestleMania, that like they belong there, and they did. When you're over like that, you can start slower. You can do things that you can't do when you're on the third match, not because you physically can't do it, but because your presence isn't enough. They have so much equity in themselves from 20 years in the business of huge matches that they could walk out and do that. And not many other people could do it. And I thought it was incredibly well done. I thought the whole thing was great. And shout out to Blue Meanie, by the way, who were on last week. And he's the one that first said, what if Paul Heyman goes with Seth Rollins?
Yeah, I think we did a poll, and I think most people could predict and call that it was going to be Seth Rollins. But I think a lot of people assumed that, considering Seth had used the same phrasing that we had heard John Cena and The Rock use, best for business, that may be where it was headed. We'll see where it goes from here. I kind of felt like it was the only logical place for Paul Heyman to go, because it's hard for me to imagine him being a babyface mouthpiece. It feels like you want Paul Heyman, and he would almost be miscast as a babyface. You want him to be a heel. And clearly at this point, Roman and CM Punk are darlings in WWE fan bases. So Seth Rollins is the only logical answer in that. Would you have done it differently, or do you think they made the right call?
Nope. I thought we talked about it the past week that Seth Rollins was the right choice. I thought that was the way, though that was 100% the way I would go. I thought it made the most sense. Paul Heyman, I think, is a separate issue. But if you want to put a fresh coat of paint on Paul, which is really hard to do after 30, 40 years in the business of being constantly in main events, all of a sudden now Paul Heyman is just as rejuvenated as ever. Not that he wasn't before. He was. He's always been in main events, always been with one world champion after another. He's got the greatest run of a manager in the history of the world. And he's done it again. And he's on fire again with a new guy that went over two incredible legends. And so I thought it was perfect.
Speaking of legends, we saw some sad news on Friday night. It looks like Rey Mysterio was injured on SmackDown, and he was unable to compete against El Grande Americano. And instead, Rey Fenix stepped up to the plate. And to my surprise, whoever this masked man El Grande Americano is, he picked up the win. And I even saw some speculation, and I don't know this, I don't think his identity has been revealed, but I saw some people suggesting that whoever's under this hood could be potentially doing a Mr. America type gimmick. Like we saw once upon a time, Hulk Hogan paraded around under a hood, but we knew it was Hulk Hogan. Do you think that was Vince McMahon under the hood and he really was at WrestleMania, John?
I wouldn't put it past him. Yeah. Not at all. I would not put it past him at all. He found a way in, and you knew he would. You knew he would not go quietly into the night. I don't think there's much doubt that could have been and probably was Vince McMahon.
Of course, the big news, in all seriousness, with regard to Lucha Libre was the idea that WWE has acquired AAA. And listen, when you first started showing up south of the border, this was the speculation that you were Hunter's low-key talent scout. And we've seen you in TNA, and then Joe Hendry was at WrestleMania. We've seen you at AAA, and now they're owned by WWE. where are you headed next? And what can you tell us about your secret undercover work you've been doing for WWE?
Because apparently I'm a double secret agent. I'm so double secret, I don't even know about it. So that's how much double secret I am. I'm excited about them with AAA. I think it's great. That Viking Del Hijo, I think that's how you say his name. I watched him have a match down there with the Del Rio. That kid is freaking amazing. They're getting some talent, man. This is unbelievable. And I always thought that WWE should have done this maybe back in the day, where you acquire a territory like Mexico that is completely different, that wants their own culture and wants their own heritage and wants their own history, but wants to be a part also. Not where you WWE it, where you buy Georgia Championship Wrestling and you turn it into WWE South, but where you buy it and you have a WWE influx into it, but you leave the culture and heritage the same with Lucha Libre. I think it's a fantastic partnership. Dorian has done an incredible job down there. Conan is a terrific booker, and I'm very excited about it. And I've said a couple times that I think Del Rio is the best wrestler in the world. And I know people took me to task on that, but look, I've watched him, and it's my opinion, but that guy draws interest like no one I've seen down there. He's better than he's ever been, and it's really amazing what he's doing down there.
Let's talk about night 2 of WrestleMania. We started off with the 3-way dance for the women's title. Io Sky retains. She beats Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair in the process. I saw CM Punk in advance of WrestleMania weekend actually advocating that this should have actually been the main event. Rhea's never had a WrestleMania main event. And he said, when will Io Sky be in this position again? I think at the time, people sort of thought, I can't imagine that being the main event. With the benefit of hindsight, it might have actually been one of the best matches of the night, maybe the best match of the night. The ladies tore it up again, John.
Yeah, if I'm on last, I'm glad they're on first. Yes. Because I don't want them on 6th and me on 7th, because they stole the freaking show. And how big for Io Sky? I had Rhea winning. I thought they would probably put the title on her, but everything's about her. Terrific. And the match was absolutely blown away fantastic. You got to love stuff like this. And you got to love the future that we're going to get, because we realize what we have. And I don't know. I'm sure WWE knew what they had. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm talking about we as fans. I'm a fan like everybody else. We have this, and now we got a future that we're like, God Almighty, I want to see this again, because that was that good.
We saw over the weekend fans who work on cagematch.net. I say work on because you have to register in order to be able to vote and rank matches and things like that. On the entire weekend, between both nights, the 3-way dance from the women on night 2 was the highest rated match amongst fans. And I don't think I would have pegged that ahead of time, but man, they stole it. Shout out to the ladies. 2 nights in a row, I feel like they maybe had the best match of the night.
Yeah, it's just amazing. It's something that the business is so big now, but one of the reasons that you're drawing extra fans is because you have double the roster. But I say double the roster, not just the guys, you have the ladies. Back in the 90s, we had terrifically talented women, beautiful women. They weren't trained to wrestle. Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler were terrific athletes. They could have been great wrestlers. They weren't trained for that. That wasn't what they wanted them for the role. Now you've got the women that are just as many as there are men, as it should be, and it should have been all along. And they're equal in every respect and better. When they're better, they're better. There's no glass ceiling anymore. So when the women excel, it's okay. They beat the guys. Good for them. If the guys win this time, good for them. You actually have given a level playing field. And because of that, I think that's really added to the appeal of wrestling. You see it in MMA. You're seeing it in other sports. We're just behind the curve. The society was behind the curve. And it's catching up, which is a good thing. And you realize how talented these women are, which, we knew all along. They just didn't have the role that was able to show that.